my brother Seth. Hey, bro. I sound like Buster from Arrested Development. Hey, brother. My brother Seth Rollins. It's not quite there. Hello, I'm Adam, hailing from partsFUNknown, and this is how Adam would book Dean Ambrose's heel turn. So I've been building up to this one for three main reasons. One, it's one of the biggest drop balls in wrestling, recent wrestling at least. It took one of the greatest, most kind of rawly emotional swerves and one of the most rawly emotional Raws in recent memory, and it sort of squeezed every last bit of life and passion out of that story. Not just a storyline, but also one of its biggest stars. There you go, Dean, you wacky bastard. Second of all, Dean Ambrose's career ending with a bang rather than a whimper is such a strong indictment of the entire WWE system, from its story structure to its written promos to its simple corporate cynicism, humiliating Ambrose, crushing all of his momentum, and then yet trotting him out to do a sort of weird, cynical victory lap with the Shield to get one last big flurry of commemorative t-shirts. In a way, fixing it and giving sort of Dean Ambrose something really good to go out on, it feels like a lie. It feels like a covering up of, just how gross WWE can be. And third of all, it's a story about grief and fisting. No, sorry. No, but seriously, I'm not even sure they should have done it in the wake of real life circumstance. Maybe it would have been better for Dean and Seth not to fight each other, but for anything to get along, to be cemented together as brothers in the face of mutual trauma. But, the title of the video is rebooking the heel turn, so here we go. Now, just a kind of heads up from the off, Roman's leukemia runs a lot through this booking. Now, I say that with the benefit of hindsight. I have made this video knowing that Roman was okay and is okay. I realized not knowing that at the time would make maybe doing something like this unthinkable to WWE, and I get that. I really do, but the purpose of this video has never been to say, well, it was so easy to do this, because yeah, it's fantasy booking. It's always easier to say than it is to do, especially with hindsight. But what I've always tried to do with this series is take a real life circumstance and then just try and tell you a really good story. And I think that this story does have something to say, at least. That's why I'm pushing forward with it, and all of that was very, very serious. So here is this silly little dance. So what happened in real life is that on an October episode of Raw in 2018, Roman Reigns revealed himself as Joe, a man who had battled and beaten leukemia in the past, and unfortunately the leukemia had come back. He was taking time off to go and kick its ass again, and for the first time people were seeing Roman Reigns as a real person. And then he walked back up the ramp and was embraced by Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. The men who had broken into the mainstream together, who had traveled together, worked together, fought together, who always seemed to circle each other, even after the Shield, the greatest faction of all time, exploded. They always kind of carried the memory of each other, and that was a legacy and a curse. And when they embraced, just look at this photo. So Seth is crushed, he is vulnerable, he is seeking comfort and giving comfort the only way he knows how, by just sort of burying himself into his friend and being there. And Dean just looks lost. Later that night, Rollins and Ambrose fought for the tag titles. Now, previously, the Shield had been showing signs of implosion, with Dean Ambrose going away, being on the shelf for a long time, and almost dying of a staph infection in real life. That happened, and he came back and was kind of immediately slotted back into the Shield and was really started to resent that. Don't call me a lunatic. But on this night, they had to do it for Roman. They did do it for Roman. And then Dean Ambrose planted Rollins with dirty deeds and beat the shit out of him. And it wasn't nice or good, but it was perfect, because wrestling plays a dangerous game. It features real people and it features real pain. And sometimes letting that real life pain into wrestling, letting it seep in, feels uncomfortable and distasteful. But sometimes it can create the most rawly emotive storytelling that you're ever going to see. Wrestling can be storytelling that punches you right in the heart. And this betrayal was one of its grim masterpieces, like that Hieronymus Bosch painting of hell. Wrestling is a playground that devours its own players. So it was set up to be anger-inducing, painful, messy, and it all went so wrong. The angle started by using Roman's cancer as a launching pad, and then it didn't know what to do with it once it had it. It was like WWE had a handful of gunpowder, and for fear of it blowing up in their face, they let it slip through their fingers. And I understand that. Like WWE, I believe that they care about Roman Reigns now. I believe they cared about him so much back then. And I understand not wanting to hurt him or his family, but having this to work with. So immediately Dean didn't explain his actions for a week. He just stood in the crowd with sort of all the grim detachment of someone watching a Tamina match. Rollins was forced to defend the tag titles alone next week against AOP, and obviously he lost. Finally, the week after that, Ambrose explained himself. He says, this vest, Seth, it made me weak. The shield made me weak, so I'm burning it down. Whilst also for some reason sitting on a red car. And I'm not sure when Dean Ambrose became part of Dom Toretto's crew, but you know, good on you, mate. Dean Ambrose does live his life a quarter mile at a time. Then Ambrose just sort of skipped Survivor Series because whoopsie poopsie, you've got an inconvenient feud going, and don't you know it's brand warfare month? Sorry, Dean, can you just put your mental breakdown on pause while Seth whacks on a red shirt while he goes to fight a blue shirt? That would be ideal. I mean, Dean couldn't even interfere and cost Seth Rollins the match because they were booking a Raw total shutout angle, which also went nowhere. When did Survivor Series become the worst pay-per-view on WWE's calendar in terms of just crushing all the stories that its other characters are trying to tell? Not a rhetorical question. 2016 is the answer. That's when. Then came the November 26th, 2018 episode of Monday Night Raw, emanating from Milwaukee, which was so titanically across the board bad that, no joke, fans went to Milwaukee's own Wikipedia page. They edited it to say, Milwaukee is the main cultural and economic center of the Milwaukee metropolitan area. It is also the city where wrestling died. On that day, WWE tried to metaphorically and literally re-inject some of Roman's cancer heat back into Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins. And they did that by having Dean Ambrose become a germaphobe who was terrified of getting sick with Ebola, E. coli, or Eboli, whatever. And there, right fucking there, is when he became wacky ass motherfucking Dean Ambrose again. And he pulled down his pants as a doctor injected him in the ass while he was trying to cut a really intense promo on the brother he had betrayed on the night his other brother revealed he had cancer. That is when you could actually tangibly see that Dean Ambrose was done with WWE. Like, you can see it in his eyes. The light has gone out there. Dean is done. And The Dark Knight Rises, by the way, came out in 2012 because WWE has their finger on the pulse of pop culture. Like lightning, a mere 6 years later, out came Dean Ambrose as some dollar store Bane with some costume shop SWAT team members. I mean, look at all that imagery. Infection, riot gear. It's basically saying, remember that Roman's got cancer, but we don't want to keep saying about how Roman's got cancer because our storytelling department is about as nuanced as a man dropping poo on another man. That's a skill set we're working with, so how do we... You guys remember Bane? Come on, you all remember Bane, don't you?
I wondered what would break first, Dean's spirit or his body?
WrestleTalkMerch.com. Then came TLC and their first proper pay-per-view match months after the turn. All the momentum squandered, and holy shit, it was bad. Like, Dean had checked out, and these guys were supposed to be the Cain and Abel of WWE, and it was just 20 minutes of boring ass wrist locks and heatless wrestling. The crowd actually chanted boring at it, and they were right. It stank to the point that no gas mask can save you. You know, you merely adopted the shit. WWE was born in it. Ambrose officially handed in his notice, so he just went through the ringer at this point. He was eliminated convincingly from the Royal Rumble. It looked like he was going to get beaten up by Nia Jax, which was something that became nothing. He put over EC3 with all the vim and vigor of a grounded teenager. Then, because, oh well, he's definitely gone, can't convince him, one more time from the top. Who remembers the Shield? Vest. There was a farewell Shield tour. Drew McIntyre then killed Dean Ambrose in order to add heat to his own match with Roman Reigns at Wrestlemania, a payday that Dean didn't get, of course. And then the rest is AEW history. F***ing shit that. Let me have a go. So like I said, this is definitely fantasy booking because Dean is still going to go to AEW and become Jon Moxley. I'm not messing with that circumstance. And I'm aware that because Dean is definitely going, this story wouldn't happen because I think it's good and WWE doesn't do anything nice for its employees on the way out, which I've never really understood. The more you devalue them in WWE and treat them like ass, the better they're going to be received in the promotion that actually appreciates them. You know, like AEW fans are so much more behind Jon Moxley because of the way Dean Ambrose ended. So anyway, look, I'm just going to try and make this a good story whilst also being the series finale on Dean Ambrose. First of all, take Renee Young off the announce team because that is a horrible position to put her in. Because it's an intense angle, and she's a babyface color commentator, so unless you're going to have her be heel, which you shouldn't do, then you shouldn't put her in a position where all the other announcers are being like, explain your husband's actions. Why is he beating up his friend because his other friend got cancer? And she's like, I don't know. He seemed fine at breakfast. Like, have her take some leave because she's concerned over her husband who's going through a breakdown. Or just kind of have her be a backstage interviewer and have her interview anyone except for Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. And next, keep everything that happened on that episode of Raw. The announcement, the tag team title win, the betrayal. Not tonight. Not on this night. That's actually a good call by Michael Cole, to be fair. When crafting the story, look at Dean's entire life, and when it comes down to it, when you're looking at a story to say goodbye to Dean Ambrose, it's the Shield. Of course it is, because right or wrongly, in WWE, it's always come back to the Shield, especially in the light of Roman's illness. So Ambrose DDTs Seth Rollins' head onto the concrete, and then Seth doesn't come back next week because you fucking wouldn't, would you? Instead, Ambrose comes down to the ring with the tag belts, an actual physical manifestation of togetherness, teamwork, love. Because Ambrose wants to talk about love. He loves Roman Reigns, always has. He's never done anything against Roman, and Roman's always had his back. And for the longest time, Dean tried to forgive Seth for what he did. And for the longest time, he kind of convinced himself that he had. But when Roman got sick, he just became too tired. And he couldn't keep up that facade anymore. And he realizes that he never forgave Seth. And Roman did. And it poisoned him. Because Ambrose is grieving. And this is how he grieves. He has to blame someone because, I get it. It's a terrifying world where bad things, unfair things will happen, not only to good people, but to people you love for no reason. And to go out in that world is horrifying. So you look for someone to blame. You look for a conspiracy. You look for intent, some sort of design. And he's found someone to blame. And it takes him to that dark place. The unfairness of Roman's leukemia does the fusion dance with the unfairness of Seth Rollins breaking up the Shield. Ambrose was robbed of control back then, and he is being robbed of control now. And Roman is sick, and Seth Rollins is healthy. And Seth Rollins is grieving for Roman Reigns. And how dare you? So he fights for Roman. He fights for what he believes is the right cause because he is in the middle of a hurricane, in the middle of a breakdown, and this is the only thing he can see. He says he's glad that Roman is gone because he doesn't want him to see what he's going to take from Seth Rollins, which is everything, starting with these. I want to show you, Seth. We won these together. I'm going to show you what they mean to me. He's going to do what Seth Rollins did with the IC title. He's going to have an open challenge. First team to come out gets a shot at me defending these. And the team that comes out is not Authors of Pain with their little Meowth sidekick. It's Gallows and Anderson. And I'll explain why later. The club steps in the ring. Ambrose lays down. They cover him. 1, 2, 3. Gallows and Anderson are the new Raw Tag Team Champions, and Ambrose just walks to the back. Next week, Rollins enters the arena looking for Ambrose. He is not medically cleared. He suffered a severe concussion, but he can't stay home and watch Dean Ambrose say these things on television. He cannot do it. So Rollins is walking through the back, and that is where Dean Ambrose attacks him. Again, he DDTs him again onto the arena floor, and while Seth is out, Dean takes a can of spray paint and sprays a yellow streak in Seth Rollins' hair. And he says, "You don't get to erase the person you used to be." He drags Seth over to some cinder blocks, like Seth did 4 years ago. He places Seth's head, and he stomps his head through a cinder block, and Seth is out of there. Dean stands over Seth Rollins and he speaks down the lens to the fans. He says, "Doesn't matter, because you'll forgive me, won't you? Because you have to. No matter what I do, no matter how weak it makes you feel to forgive me, no matter how much it makes you sick." And he looks down at Seth and he says, "Go on, Seth. Forgive me. Go on." So Seth isn't seen for a while until the week before Survivor Series, when Baron Corbin, like a prick, makes him defend his IC title, because we've got to have a definitive IC champion going into Survivor Series. And also, do you have your valet ticket? I would love to bring your car around. His opponent, Finn Balor. Seth is done for. He barely makes it out, and he immediately succumbs to a surprisingly unsympathetic Balor. Then after the match, and after Finn Balor is crowned your new Intercontinental Champion, Dean Ambrose comes out again and attacks Rollins again, and Finn Balor doesn't help, just walks to the back. He justifies it. I've got Survivor Series to think about. Which takes us to Balor versus Nakamura at Survivor Series IC versus US, which ends with Finn Balor winning because of help from Gallows and Anderson. Because yeah, they're doing it. They're finally doing it. They are forming Balor Club. Nah. So yes, that is a thing that is also happening in this booking video. Rollins is on the shelf again throughout Survivor Series, and instead, on the pay-per-view, they air a sit-down interview with Dean Ambrose. Michael Cole says Seth Rollins probably should have been here tonight. He's not. I just want to ask you, because you say you're doing this because you love Roman Reigns, how can you make Roman Reigns watch this at home? And Dean says, Roman would be proud of me. Roman tried to forgive Seth, and look where that got him. So he knows why I'm doing this. He knows that he doesn't deserve to be in a hospital bed, and he knows that Seth Rollins does. So at TLC, I'm throwing out the challenge. You and me, one-on-one. At TLC, I will beat you, and then I will end your career. And at TLC, it's a trap. It's basically just, it's not a match. It is a flat-out assault. Dean Ambrose goes for the balls, gets all the weapons he can find, and just beats the living shit out of Seth Rollins again and again and again. And if it's starting to get repetitive, yeah, because all Dean Ambrose can do is hate. It's all he's got. And he gets a bag of broken glass and lays it out in the ring, and he DDTs Seth Rollins into it. And as the paramedics come down, Ambrose just sits there being like, why didn't I feel better? Why do I still feel so bad? He's sad because the truth is that's all he's got, and he doesn't know when enough is enough because it's not changing anything. Roman's still sick and he's still grieving. So Seth Rollins gets a little bit of something in this feud. He eliminates Dean Ambrose from the Royal Rumble. Dean then comes back, pulls him out underneath the bottom rope. He smashes him through the announce table. Seth manages to kind of crawl his way into the ring, where he's eventually eliminated by Brock Lesnar, who wins the Royal Rumble. Remember this video? It's ruled by the authority that Ambrose and Rollins has to stop. Guys, gross. And Dean is taken to one side by none other than Triple H. He says, I know, you and I have always hated each other. How does Triple H do it? He's a man. Such a man. Triple H takes Dean to one side and says, look, we haven't seen eye to eye, plan B, soz, but I get it. Years ago, I was consumed with hatred for Stone Cold Steve Austin, and nothing, it seemed, would stop it. We were destroying each other's careers, hurting the ones that we thought that we cared about, but we put an end to it, and you will too. At Elimination Chamber, it's going to be 3 stages of hell. First match, normal. Second match, street fight. Third match, an I Quit match. At Elimination Chamber, in the match, Seth wins the first fall by catching Dean with a stomp. Dean wins the second fall because he thrives in no DQ environments. And then from that point on, the violence just escalates, and it's pretty gross. It's just violence. It's one horrible, painful moment after another. It gets to the point where both men don't have anything left to give anymore, and Dean Ambrose is on his knees and he's sobbing, and he just says, fight me, Seth, fight me. You have to. Just hit me. Hit me! And that is when Seth realizes what he needs to do to really beat Dean Ambrose. He takes the microphone and he says to Ambrose, no one wins from this. No matter who wins the match or loses, it's not going to change anything. I did a really terrible thing, and if you can't forgive me for that, I can't make you, but I don't have to fight you anymore. I quit. That is how Seth wins. Ambrose wins the wrestling match, but Seth is the one that is able to let it go, and that is how you live in this world with all this pain and unfairness. Pain that is not your fault, and pain that is your fault. If you're able to let that go and just protect yourself mentally, physically, and the ones that you care about, and just make sure you don't put any more pain and unfairness into the world, or as little as you can control, that's it. So much of wrestling, especially in WWE, boils pain and trauma down into these neat things called feuds, and I get it. I really do. Whoever wins the feud has no more pain, no more trauma, and they move on to the next thing. But not this time. Ambrose is destroyed by this, and the next night on Raw, he gets on the microphone and he says, you don't get to make this choice, Seth. Get out here right now and fight me, because you don't get to take control from me, not anymore. Get out here right now. And that is when Roman Reigns returns. He tells Ambrose and he tells everyone he's in remission, and Ambrose embraces him, and Roman lets Ambrose hug him because he's seen what he's been going through. He knows what he's gone through himself, and he says, look, I need you to understand. He says, I stared my mortality in the face, and I got a second chance. And I know you don't want to hear this right now, and I know that perhaps you have emotionally put yourself in a place where you can't hear this right now, but Seth gets a second chance. And so do you. I'm good. I'm back. And I want to put the band back together. And Dean walks away in disbelief. No. What? There's no way. Because after all of this, that would make me wrong. Wouldn't it? So Dean leaves and Reigns spends weeks trying to get the Shield back together because he knows more than anyone. Like, I am fully aware of how limited amount of time we have on this planet. Why would we spend any time fighting each other when we know that we are stronger together? We know this. We were the greatest faction of all time, and that is what raises the ire of Balor Club. Balor Club start targeting Reigns because they are the baddest of the asses. And they have been since Bullet Club in Japan back in 2013, which Balor started, and Gallows and Anderson were in it. Which is why that's why WWE called it the club. It's like, you know this thing you like? Here's our version. Oh no. Balor Club go after Roman Reigns 3-on-1. Of course, Seth Rollins steps in to save him, but Ambrose doesn't yet. He sees them get outnumbered, sees Seth Rollins get taken out, and sees Roman Reigns get put through a table. He's just backstage watching this thinking, it was all for Roman, wasn't it? Finally, the week before Fastlane, Ambrose makes the save. He and Rollins reluctantly get on the same page, and they do the fist, boys, the fisty men. They finally turn the tables on the heels, and everybody rock your body, everybody rock your body right. Backstreet's back all right. One last match at Fastlane, The Shield versus Balor Club. At Fastlane, Seth starts. He wrestles, gains the upper hand, he walks back to his corner, he looks Dean Ambrose in the eyes, then he tags Roman Reigns. Roman comes in, and then some chicanery gets him at a disadvantage, and Balor Club work him over. Then Roman Reigns tries to crawl back to his corner, but keeps getting cut off. He tries to tag in Seth, but Seth is pulled off the ring apron. He tries to tag Dean Ambrose, but they pull Roman Reigns back in. Eventually, it breaks down. Seth Rollins flies over the top rope, taking out Gallows and Anderson, and Roman Reigns hits Finn Balor with a Superman punch, and Dean Ambrose is screaming, tag me in, tag me. Roman Reigns finally leaps. He tags Dean Ambrose in for the hot tag. He comes in, scoops up Roman Reigns, and immediately dirty deeds him. Right there. And he just rolls out of the ring, walks to the back, and Finn Balor is like, okay. 1, 2, 3. Balor Club beats the Shield. On Raw, Dean explains himself. He tells Roman, I wish you'd never come back, because when you were gone, I knew who you were. I have done all of this for you. I have come too far to take it back. And if you are going to stand there and tell me it means nothing, I don't know what else I can do, but I can't be your brother anymore. I can't be around the Shield anymore. Something has got to go. That part of me that loved you is broken. And Dean Ambrose realizes the only way to get rid of the Shield is to get rid of Roman Reigns, because he's the one who still dresses in SWAT fatigues. He's the one who still has the Shield's entrance theme. Maybe the Shield meant the most to Roman Reigns, and that is what Dean Ambrose needs to do to kill it. So it's Roman versus Dean. Roman tells Seth to stay out of it because fighting Dean has already taken so much from him, and Seth then moves off into a one-on-one IC title feud with Finn Balor. This then leaves Roman Reigns versus Dean Ambrose, WrestleMania 35, loser leaves WWE. Roman tells Dean, you will always be my brother, but if this being here can't save you, if the only thing that will make you better is to not be here, I will send you home. WrestleMania 35 rolls around, and according to my previous bookings, the card looks like this. You have Asuka versus Charlotte 2, Becky versus Ronda, Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar, Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor for the IC title, and Roman versus Dean. And in that match, Dean, it's a proper I'm sorry, I love you moment. Dean is done. He can't be Roman Reigns, because really he probably doesn't want to be Roman Reigns. And he just says, come on, hit me, because nothing else has worked. Maybe this will. And Roman hits him with the spear, 1, 2, 3, and Dean is gone from the company. Ambrose leaves WWE, and actually this works out into a really nice way of sort of bridging that gap into AEW, because yeah, he has to burn Dean Ambrose down. That persona is poison to him. Everything about his past is poison, so he has to completely recreate himself. Jon Moxley, and Jon Moxley is a desperate, savage man. Also, Rollins beats Balor, just by the way, and then you can either do one of two things. You can either send Balor down to NXT with his mates, and they can have a lovely run down there. I mean, Gallows and Anderson could be NXT Tag Champs forever. I just want to see Machine Gun Carl Anderson again. Or you could do a kind of WWE version of what happened in the real Bullet Club, which is AJ Styles basically comes in, takes it over, and Finn Balor is shit. And that is how I would do it, because Dean Ambrose is this unique competitor. Like, he can go to these intense places, like his facial expressions, the way he carries himself, like the way you can almost see the kind of blood pulsing through him. He can bring this kind of raw, intense storyline to life. This, I think, is a goodbye that's worthy of him, that is worthy of Seth Rollins, and that is worthy of Roman Reigns. That is how I would book Dean Ambrose's heel turn. Do you disagree? How would you book it? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to partsFUNknown. Check out the other booking videos we've done, as well as No Rolls Barred and Quizlemania and Explained, and so many more. I'm Adam. I will see you for the next booking video. Jam that jam.